Welcome to Disruptive Successor, a show for next generation leaders in family businesses and entrepreneurs who want to disrupt the status quo and take their existing business to a whole new level. We all know that what got us here isn't going to get us there. This show will provide inspiration, advice, and resources to help you create massive impact. This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Hi, it's Jonathan Goldhill, and welcome back to another episode of the Disruptive Successor Show. Today, I'll be talking with a fellow business coach, trusted advisor, and a person who is keenly interested in family businesses. His name is Rob Ferguson, and he's a seasoned CEO. He has been a trusted advisor to family businesses since 2010. Prior to becoming an advisor, Rob had a distinguished career in leadership, including 10 years as a CEO at two different companies. One was a public company with $300 million in revenue, the other a family business with $100 million in revenue, where he successfully managed the restructuring and sale of the company. Rob has led companies through 10x growth, helped turn struggling companies around, and has conducted more than $100 million in acquisitions. Rob's company today, Ferguson Alliance, is on a mission to increase the lifespan of family businesses. Rob believes that with the right foundation in place, businesses can live infinitely. Rob, what a great bio. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Jonathan, for having me. Really happy to be here.
All right. So why the heck did you get into this business? Tell us a little bit about your background. Maybe, give us a little bit more backstory to what I just talked about in your bio.
Well, I wish I could tell you I was very strategic and intentional about it and designed this whole career path, and that's not how it happened. I was asked to serve on a board of a very large fifth generation family business. At the time, I was CEO of another fifth generation family business. And that was the first time I'd been actively involved with family businesses. And I just fell in love with the family businesses. I learned what wasn't working for the particular company I was leading through a restructuring. And then I learned what worked over 100 years with the business I was sitting on the board. And I don't know, it just all of a sudden, folks started calling me up, asking to sit on their family boards. And then another business were moving into the zone of insolvency and need some help. And so I helped them. And the next thing I know, here I am almost 13 and a half years later. We've got a firm, we've got other advisors that are like-minded with me around family business. And let me just tell you this. So the companies that I was in were institutional companies. They were, publicly held companies or private equity sponsored companies. I thought that's where my career was going to be. But I learned about family businesses, and when I learned that the influence that they have on the economy here in this country, and that they drive 65% of all employment in this country, when I learned that they're the leaders of philanthropy and innovation, it became kind of almost a calling to me that there's something for me to do here to help. I've very successful 30-year career. I wanted to pay it forward, had a lot of mentors. And so I wanted to do that. And so that's how I got here.
So you and I have this, maybe not so unique, maybe unique to others, but this very specific interest in family businesses. And so, in your mind, what is different about a family business than other businesses? And then, as a follow-on question, what is different about a fifth generation family business than a first or second generation? So,
sure. So there are several differences between an institutional business, non-family, and a family. But the one that really stands out to me with every family business I work with is how the family values have been integrated into the business culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is the secret sauce. Now, maybe everybody defines it a little bit differently, but that's what I see as very different. So the second one that seems to be very consistent is family businesses are very long-term oriented,
right?
Whereas institutional businesses are, what's our quarterly report going to look like, or what's our 1-year budget going to be, or what's our 5-year plan. I mean, family businesses are looking to the next generation or two. So those to me are the biggest differences. There's others, but those are the game changers.
Well, and it's interesting because I'm sure, since you've been doing this a long time, that you and I both work with our clients to integrate values into their businesses and hire, fire, and do performance reviews based on those values, as well as, of course, how productive they are as employees. But it almost sounds like you believe that the family values are more easily discovered, perhaps, and are more integral to the behaviors in a company. And so because these families and members of the families ascribe to these values, and it's not like they're trying to figure it out first and then hire people and fire people. It's more like, hey, these are the values. And so those have to be really strong and intact.
Yes. The one area that we help these families understand, though, is sometimes their family behaviors can also have a negative impact on the culture of the business.
Sure.
So we help them discern, okay, well, what are the real values that our family have that we can integrate into the business that'll give the business a competitive advantage? And then what are our family behaviors that might actually have a negative impact in the business that we need to put into check? And that leads us into a conversation of how to, a lot of business coaches and consultants like you and I will use words like professionalize the business or put more structure into the business. But it's really, it's all about, I believe, we call this reaching the zone of prosperity, is where flexibility and structure become in balance. You balance those two, and you don't want to take away the entrepreneurship of a family business and the quick decision making. You need that because that's their competitive advantage. But at the same time, you got to put enough structure in there so you don't outrun your money or you don't outrun your people.
Well, so another area of balance that I know that you talk to your clients about is the dynamics of balancing a family first versus a business first business. Yeah. Can you describe what you mean by that, and maybe how you do that work?
So that's the very first question we ask every one of our clients when we get engaged with them is, are you a family first business or a business first family? Many times the clients will hear that as a values-centered question. They might say, hey, it's God, family, business, country, or something like that, right? They'll try to put it in some sort of value. We shift it and say, no, it can be, but that's not really what our question is, whose best interest is most senior? Is it the families or is it the business? So are you a family first business or are you a business first family? No judgment on right or wrong or better or worse. It's just, you got to be one of those. You can't be both. And that's what we find is a lot of times clients are trying to be both, and you have to make a conscious decision. And then we get our clients to define what is their decision. In other words, define what does being a family first business mean to you, or what does being a business first family mean to you.
Do you develop values or help them, advise them on developing family values versus business values, and so that they might be different, or do you see them as one and the same?
No, we see them different. We help them. Again, we don't redefine their family values. We take the family values that are going to bet if they choose we're going to be a business first family, then it's okay. You're putting the best interest of the business ahead of the family. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that around the values, these three family values are really important to the family, but they can also give the business a competitive advantage. Great. These other family values that we have could actually harm the best interests, or get in the way or become a barrier. So we're not going to put those into the core values of the business. So, it's really about the senior commitment. What's the most senior commitment? So a family first business, there's a lot of wonderful family first businesses out there, but they're going to put a family member into a role ahead of a non-family member because of, that's what they're putting first. They're trying to provide an income to their family. And so they may not always put the best qualified person in there. Hopefully they are, but most of the time not. Versus a business first family will always put the most qualified person in that role first. The business first family is going to pay a family member market wages, not overpay them, because it's a family first business. So I'm going to go ahead and pay my wife $100K a year for her to pick up the mail at the post office twice a week. Well, I mean, that's a way to get money over to your family. That's fine. Right. But in a business first family, that's not going to work.
Do you have a bias? Like, do you recommend or advise them to pick one over the other?
Well, I get asked that question always, and I just let them know that, and this goes into your fifth generation question.
I was going to go there next.
If you are intent on building a legacy that will survive generation to generation, in other words, we really believe at Ferguson Alliance is that businesses can live forever, but people get in the way of that.
Right.
And so if you have this inkling, this vision that you want this business to live beyond you, you want to create a legacy more than your bank account, then it's going to be the business first, because the family first business, eventually that family is going to get so big, the business isn't going to be able to feed everybody.
Right.
Or you're going to end up, unfortunately, maybe putting in too many unqualified people into the business to grow it. But again, this is no negative comment against lifestyle businesses. There's plenty of great lifestyle businesses, and there's wonderful, wonderful family first businesses out there. Many of our small businesses, the dry cleaners, the restaurants, the local grocery store market, they're going to be primarily family first businesses. We support those in our local community. But if you're really intent on building a legacy that's going to last for generation to generation, then the only way that's going to happen is at some point in time, one of the generations is going to choose, we're no longer in it just for our cousins. We're now in it for the business.
Yeah. So the statistics I have on the back of my book talk about, the percentages that make it from one generation to the next.
Yeah.
And the research that I came up with suggested that only 30% of family businesses last into, or through, I should say, the second generation. Correct. And 12% remain viable through the third, and then 3% into the fourth and beyond. And so my guess is that once they're making it to the third or fourth, they're demonstrating that they are a family first business, not
no, they're demonstrating they're a business first family.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did I mix that up?
I don't
Um,
know. Yeah,
okay,
so a business first family, you're putting the best interest of the business first,
right.
ahead of the family needs. And that's a common trait that I see in third, fourth, fifth generation businesses. It's what we our experience is the first and second generation, you know, tends those that make it through, those statistics I would agree with you, through the second generation, that 30%. Um, that's not great, but those 30%, that second generation, they're really locked into the business because they grew up watching the first generation struggle.
Yes.
Why the reason why we see such a big drop off to the third is because the third generation has typically grown up a lot more affluent,
Mm-hmm.
not observing the struggles of the start of a business, and they come to have certain expectations or requirements. And so that third generation is really can be a tough one for the family business to continue on. And so by the time you get to the fourth or fifth generation, you've clearly put in what all the key elements of a business first family, great governance practices. There is a written policy on how family members can become employees and how they are terminated. You have a board of directors that's actually a fiduciary board of directors with independent directors with the family. I mean, those are some of the best practices that help these businesses reach
Right.
it to fifth generation or more.
Which now explains to me why I mixed it up, because in my mind, I was thinking it made it to second, third, fourth, fifth,
Yeah.
and beyond. They must have put the family first.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's the other way around. They
The other
put
way
the
around.
business first,
Right.
and they continue to have family members in it,
Yeah.
which made it work.
Yeah.
But the ones that put families first, they might die sooner because people will realize that there's other opportunities, other things they could be doing. Is that
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then
or it's not that professional, or it's not that
right.
sophisticated, and I want to go out and I could do something more.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
How do you manage the dynamics and balance when there's a struggle? I've been between a father and a son, a mother and a daughter, a father and daughter, whatever,
Yeah.
mother and a son, a sibling, brother to brother, brother to sister. Conflict is natural in a family business. And this week I've been posting videos on how to have difficult conversations. I've been writing about it. I've been just had a recent guest on that I really admired. He wrote a book called How to Listen, and which I thought was really unique, because you think like that's a pretty basic skill, but
Yeah.
it's not a skill that too many people have mastered. And so how do you approach conflict in a family? And what are some of the maybe the tools or um, some of the conversations that you facilitate? Maybe an example comes to mind.
Yeah. Well,
how do you navigate these difficult waters?
yeah. Well, I think just kind of like where you were going with some of your thoughts is the first thing is we have to teach the individuals involved in the conflict how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a bit cliche-ish, right? But we have one mouth and two ears,
Of course.
but yet we do the opposite, right? We speak more than we listen. So
Yep.
to your point, we first and foremost teach the individuals how to communicate effectively. So how do you listen to learn or listen to understand? Most human beings like to listen
Be
to
heard.
defend, right?
Right. Which is,
Yeah. They're
yeah,
they're 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 formulating, okay, what's my rebuttal going to be? All right. As opposed to empathetic listening, not to listen to agree. We don't teach that. You don't need to listen to agree. Just listen to understand the other perspective,
right.
the other
Right.
point of view. I use this story a lot when I'm doing this. Is was an avid hunter, and then I hope I don't offend anybody, but had a ranch down in Texas, and
Mm-hmm.
with my father-in-law, we would love to go hunting. We did. We hunted deer, but we used it. And anyway, one early morning, he was on one part of the mountain. I was on the lower end, and there was a little pond. And he called me and he said, "Hey, look, there's a beautiful deer down there by the pond. I think that's probably for you. You should take that." I didn't see it, and so there's no deer. And he said, "No, it's right there. I'm telling you, this is your opportunity." Obviously, didn't take it, didn't see it, but that told me the difference in perspective. He was looking at it at that pond, that scenery, that animal from a different perspective than where I was. So I couldn't see, and so I made my judgment decisions based on my
Right.
observations. Whereas if I had been more open, possibly I could have shifted my perspective. So it's the same thing when we're listening to learn, not listening to agree. Yeah, hopefully we can shift our perspective as can the other.
Yeah. It's really it's very difficult, I think, for a lot of people to break patterns, habits. I don't know at what age they start to become very ingrained. It might even be in their early teens or 20s. I'm not sure. But I think this is one of the most challenging areas. When there's conflict, let's say among siblings or generations. Many people have watched the television show on HBO, Succession, which personally I couldn't stomach because the relationship of those people, they were so toxic, the people, but they're all fighting to wrestle control from I think his name is Logan Roy, the senior father, and that person doesn't want to let go. And I think these are the types of issues that we get called into, and they need someone to advise them. Are there other unique challenges that come to your mind, or you want to comment on what I just said?
Well, first of all, I've never watched Succession. I mean, it makes good Hollywood,
right?
But I try to really help our families that are working through succession issues in a more authentic manner. So once we are able to get others to learn how to communicate, then we focus in on, well, what do we agree? What's our common foundation?
Yep.
Right. And then we go into this, are you a business first or family first business? And that's the first decision consensually that the family makes. Once we can get one consensual decision that is the center point then of all future decisions, now we can go back when we have disagreement or we even have conflict. We can go, hey, we consensually decided that we're a business first family. What did we say about this issue as a business first family? We go back and go, oh yeah, we did say that.
Well, let's just talk about that. I mean, is consensus 7 out of 10 votes? Is it 10 out of 10 votes?
Yeah.
And how do you get to 10 out of 10?
Yeah. So we don't prescribe consensus decisions in business except around, are we going to be a family first or a business first family? That's the only one we go for consensus. So sometimes I think the longest it took one of our clients to reach consensus was 3 months, several workshops to answer that question.
Wow.
There's 4, maybe I'd argue 5 ways to make decisions, right? There's not an infinite amount, right? You can make decisions just like we talked about consensually. That's 100%. You can make it autocratically, right? The king rules, right? You can make it democratically. Yep, we vote on it. Majority rules. And then the one that we typically use the most with our clients is collaboratively. So collaboratively is not consensual. Collaboratively, there is a decision maker, a defined decision maker, but that decision maker collaborates with certain subject matter experts to help shape or form that decision. And if they can reach consensus, great. But if not, the decision maker owns it and makes the decision. And then those that were involved in that decision-making process, they salute it and execute it as if it was their very own, no second guessing. And if it didn't work out, we learn from it and we adjust. There's one more
It's
decision making that I'll mention. So those are the four.
good.
There's
Yep.
more. What do you think the fifth one is, Jonathan? Any ideas?
I would think about the future of the business.
It's no decision.
Oh, no decision, of course.
Yeah, and no decision. Sometimes that's a legit time, but
Right.
this can be very dangerous too. The no decision. We see that a lot. I'm sure you do with your clients. That, oh, I don't want to hurt my brother's feelings, so we're not going to
Just
go there.
right. We'll just carry on, act as if it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Couple more topics. I know we don't have a whole lot of time left. Family business retirement plan. Sell or have a succession plan. What is this a big? I know you were like I was involved in a value builder advising program and helping people to recognize what they could do to increase the valuation of the business. And arguably that's for a sale, not for a transfer internally.
Yeah.
Do family businesses that you work with that are larger wrestle with this? And is it because they don't have a next generation in place? Because I know in my family, my great-grandfather and his three sons, my grandfather and his brothers, built a very large clothing manufacturing company. And I don't know exactly why they sold it, but I believe they sold it because there was no next generation of the family that was going to be strong enough. My dad passed away when he was 35, so he was no longer part of it. And so there wasn't that next generation. It made it to three and just kind of stalled out.
Yeah.
And so what's been your experience in this area?
Well, we're guides to our clients. So it really depends on what they want. What we advise is the sooner you can start your succession planning, the better. I'm currently working with 3 clients on succession planning. One client, his timeline is 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Another client is, I think, 4 years, and another client is 3 years. So with the client that's 10 years out, his son is still too young. He's serving our country. He's in the Marine Corps, but he hopes in 4 years, when he finishes his obligation to serving his country, he wants to come into the business. Well, but he doesn't know the business, right? Mm-hmm. But his father would say, hey, look, not only do I want to transfer the ownership, I want to transfer the leadership to him. So we have built this plan of, all right, well, how's that look? What does he have to do to get there? Now, but there's checkpoints along that plan all the time of, does the son still want to do this? And do you still want the son to do this? So I think succession plans, the longer the time you have for succession, the better, the more flexible, and the more opportunities you have. Those folks that are 1, 2, 3 years out, you really start limiting your opportunities or your different choices. You got to get locked in pretty quick. So that's where it depends. So whether you should transition to either a family member or a non-family member of your business or sell it, we ask our clients every year, at the end of every year, is this time to reinvest in your business, or is it time to monetize your business? It's just a check-in, right, to really say, look, we got to really think about this, and our job is to help our clients think. Most of our clients say, nope, I'm doubling down, I'm reinvesting, I'm the full speed ahead. Every now and then a client's going to go, you know what, I'm really disappointed. My sons don't want to come into the business. I thought they would. I don't have anybody else. I think we need to start thinking about selling the business. I'm 60 years old, and I want to do this for maybe another 2 or 3 years. So then we work on that path. So it really is up to the client as to what they direct that they want to do.
How often does an assessment of the value of the company come into place in those situations? Do most of them want to know, what's my business really worth in the marketplace to make that decision? are they going more based on emotions?
As yeah, typically it's more emotional, but
Yeah.
we bring in the facts
Mm-hmm.
to help them better understand. And so we'll bring in, okay, well, what's the real market value of
Mm-hmm.
your business? And unfortunately, a lot of owners, as you know, Jonathan, they think very highly of their business. And we usually have to deliver the news that, well, your business really isn't valued as much as you think it is. However, if you've got 10 years to go, there's a lot you can do to increase the value. If you've only got a year to go or 2 years, there's really nothing you can do this is
Right.
what it is.
Right.
So I think it's very important for business owners to understand and know what their market value is. I don't know if you have to pay for a certified valuation every
Mm-hmm.
year, but it's
Mm-hmm.
probably a good idea to do one every couple of years, or as maybe some significant event is occurring in the business, just to keep it relevant.
And anecdotally, from your experience, how many businesses or what percentage of the clients you're working with are using their lifetime gift tax exemption to transfer equity, do it as a gift to family members? How many of them are making their kids buy in, earn in? What's your experience in that area? I think that's a topic that a
Yeah.
lot of people are wondering. What should I do in my situation?
So first of all, let me just say this. The majority of our clients do not sell their business. The majority of our clients
Right.
do succession. I
Mm-hmm.
think roughly it's 2/3, 1/3.
Mm-hmm.
And it may even be 80/20. Secondly, all of our clients, and we advise our clients that the next generation should buy in a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
So they all get gifted, but well, we unwind the conversation with succession. There's leadership succession, there is ownership succession, and then there's wealth succession.
Mm-hmm.
So we separate those because I think a lot of advisors that help families, whether they're CPAs or attorneys, they don't unwind them. They're all together.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
they come from their discipline and their area
Mm-hmm.
of expertise. Ours is to be a little bit more holistic, unwind those three conversations, and then wind them back again to make sure that they all fit. So it is possible to have a family member have ownership or shares into the business because they were born into the family, but that doesn't mean they're going to be an operator. They may not even have voting shares. They most likely don't. They're not going to have controlling shares. So that's all fine. That's why we separate the ownership out. So anyway, so it's three conversations, and I would say the majority have the family member that is going to have controlling interest or leadership, operational leadership, is going to buy in a certain amount.
Rob, this is a fascinating conversation, and I hope people who've listened in on our conversation are creating some thoughts in their own mind about, what do I need to be doing? What do I want to be doing? Do I have a family first or a business first? What's my approach here? Am I looking to, how do I deal with ownership and wealth and leadership and the transfer of authority and control in those different areas? I mean, thanks for enlightening me and enlightening my audience.
Yeah, you bet.
And continuing the mission.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed visiting with you and talking about a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts, family
Oh, great.
business.
Great. So I know you're doing other podcasts and you've been on a few things like Design Your Legacy podcast, Influential Entrepreneurs podcast. And if people want to get a hold of you, you're at ferguson-alliance.com. Is that the best way to reach you, is go through your website?
Well, or you can call us. Our toll-free number is 833-215-6252. Or just as you mentioned, you can go to our website. There's a lot of information on there, and you can connect with us there. That's at ferguson-alliance.com. And you can book a call directly with me from the website. So give us a call or book a call through our website, and love to visit with you.
Rob, thanks so much for being on the show. We could talk for another hour easily over coffee or a beer. Or, maybe if I got down to Texas, you took me hunting, would be a first for me. It would be a great experience. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom with my audience, and invite you to come back to the show in the future. So
I'd love to. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, folks. If you're dealing with ownership, legacy, succession, transition issues, listen to some of these podcasts. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Give us a good rating on your podcast listening application of choice, and stay tuned for future episodes of our show. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Thank you for joining us on the Disruptive Successor Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, review, and share with a friend who would benefit from the message. If you're interested in picking up a copy of my book, Disruptive Successor, go to disruptivesuccessor.com.